Show as Manchester United face Real Sociedad in San Sebastian at the Real Arena in the Europa League, the only trophy that Manchester United have the possibility of winning, our only route back to European football to get into the Champions League. I mean, it feels unimaginable, the fact that Manchester United could be playing Champions League football next season. Obviously, all their eggs are in the Europa League basket. How confident are we, based on recent form, going into today's game? Jordan, I'll start with you because it's great to have you back in the studio.
Yeah, good to be back. Good to see you. And you, Mordzs. Always good to come up. Yeah, all eggs in one basket. It's mad to think our season could literally be over in the first week of March. But they're not in great form, neither are we. But, you know, I still feel like we can do something in this tournament. We do tend to do well in cup games. I think even on the weekend against Fulham, I didn't think we'd win in 90 minutes. I thought our best shot was going to be extra time or penalties. And we just seem to produce our best form over the last couple of seasons in cup tournaments. We just can't seem to put together a season worth of consistency. So it wouldn't surprise me if we were to go on and win the Europa League. It really, really wouldn't.
See, I get Jordan's point and the positivity is coming through. You know what? Jordan's feeling positive. He's turned up to Manchester. The sun's shining. There's no traffic because we're away today. The sun's shining. You know, Manchester in the sun is good vibes, and he's got a positive feeling. But Mordzs, I'm just thinking about the fact that I went into that FA Cup game against Fulham thinking, and there were so many people telling me Fulham are going to do you at home, and I was like, you know what? It's a cup game. We usually turn up for cups, but as much as Jordan said, you know, it was penalties that we ended up going out on. We just didn't look like scoring, and that's always difficult. It's always difficult when you're in a cup competition, when you're struggling for goals. Does that make you question whether we'll be able to get through against Real Sociedad, a team that previously it's been a very tight scoring game against?
Yeah, I mean, looking at Real Sociedad as well, I've obviously done a bit of research, and they don't actually score a lot of goals as well. We're both kind of in a similar boat. They definitely score more goals than us. You know, I don't think there's a lot of teams that don't score more goals than us. But like Jordan said, you know, they're not a team that's unbeatable. It's not a case. We're not going to the Bernabeu. We're not going to Camp Nou, Allianz Arena. We're going to a team that it is possible to get a result there. Now, I mean, I know a lot of people are looking at their recent results. They have lost their two last games, but they did play Real Madrid and Barcelona. So it's a bit of a, like, yeah, they lost, but a lot of people would have lost that. A lot of teams would have lost that game. Whereas you look at United and, you know, the games that we are losing, it's even hard to say that we should have won them. You know, people look at Fulham and think, yeah, we can get a result, but then you actually look at the table and you look at our results and their results, and you actually think, well, actually, should we have got a result there? Should they have got a result at Old Trafford? Probably not, because, you know, Fulham are a team that have taken down a lot of big teams this season. And even though United are a big name, and obviously not the best team, but look, I just feel like today, like I said at the start, Real Sociedad, they are a team that can be got at, but let's not be surprised. To me, Real Sociedad are like the Fulham of La Liga. That's kind of how I'm looking at them. They're in a similar position. They're the top half. They're not necessarily challenging for a title or anything like that, but a cup for them is huge. You know, and a lot of those teams that are at that mid-table, they really want to go on these strong cup runs every single season because they know they're not going to win the league when they're competing against like the Real Madrid and Barcelona. So it's going to be both teams who their whole season kind of comes down to this game and if they want to go through and actually win a trophy.
We were talking about Real Sociedad there. You will look at them where they're at in La Liga, and they are currently 9th in La Liga. And I've heard a lot of people say this, you know, they're 9th in La Liga. And I'm sat there and I'm like, have you seen that we're 14th in the Premier League? Like, we are 14th in the Premier League. We are terrible.
Yeah.
We are terrible. Yeah. Doesn't matter whether they're 9th in La Liga or not. And people, you know, will say, well, Anthony's doing really well at Real Betis in La Liga. Well, La Liga's a good league. Like, it is a good league. I mean, Real Betis beat Real Madrid the other day, so... I mean, you look at the past two results, they had to play Real Madrid and Barcelona. Barcelona thrashed them 4-0. Barca are looking fantastic under Hansi Flick. Yeah. Then you've got Real Madrid. I think Real Madrid beat them, it was either 2-1 or 1-0. I've got it up here. They beat them 1-0 in the Copa del Rey. So, you know, yes, Real Sociedad, they've had a couple of tough results against the Spanish giants, but they are a good seed. They're a good team, and we shouldn't underestimate them. And they've given us difficulties before. We've had some decent results against them. Last time out in San Sebastian, it was a 1-0 win, but I remember it being a really turgid game, and Alejandro Garnacho got that goal through the Cristiano Ronaldo assist, but it was a tough slog. Yeah. And we were a better team then, than we are now. But to be fair, Real Sociedad have also kind of dwindled a little bit in their quality. They're maybe not the team that they once were, but we still shouldn't underestimate them, and they are a good team. I mean, let's get straight into it, because Jordan, you're not in the studio as often as we would like here, so I want to get your thoughts. You are very active in our forum group chat, so I know some of your opinions, but the chat don't know. And any questions you have in, or any topics you want us to cover, get your super chats in, hit a like on the video, get your comments in. This is going to be United chat about our season, mixing in a bit of team news as well, and news around the game. Get your comments in. We love an early kick-off here in a European tie. Rasmus Højlund. Sam, I swear I'm starting. Because Ruben Amorim, straight in the deep end for you.
You know what?
Ruben Amorim got asked about Rasmus Højlund's goal drought. He said, in football, anything you can change in 1 month. One game can change your way of seeing yourself. It's another opportunity, and in football, it's a good thing to have the next match to change things. Basically, in other words, I see that as he's not good enough, but there's obviously always an opportunity to start scoring goals and put yourself back in favour.
Yeah.
He's going to start tonight. Chido Obi isn't eligible. He's not got a goal in 18 games.
Yeah.
Where he has got his goals is the Europa League. Granted, 2 against Bodo Glimt and 2 against FCSB. It's not exactly the best teams he's got his goals against, but he does seem like he has a better success rate when he's playing against European sides. Even in the Champions League with Ten Hag, he was doing really well in the group stage despite the fact we went out. So do you think this is a good opportunity for Rasmus Højlund? What's your thoughts overall on him?
He just looks absolutely just drained of any form of confidence. And, you know, goals breed confidence, don't they? It's like if we could buy him a goal, I think we'd all do a GoFundMe and chip in and buy him a goal to try and get him going again. It looks like he just needs a set of jump leads just to get him started again. We talk about not having enough service for our strikers, but ultimately he's got to do better. You know, there's moments in games where his hold-up play seems to be poor, and he's constantly playing with his bum to defenders and backing into him, but the ball just doesn't seem to stick to him. And I don't know about you guys, but I've kind of noticed that players around him seem to have just lost a little bit of confidence in him. And where they would naturally look to play the ball to the striker, they're almost trying things themselves or going backwards, because they're kind of like, well, if I play it forward, it's going to end up coming back this way anyway. And that, again, your striker and, you know, your goalkeeper, if there's no confidence in those positions, it then has a natural knock-on effect to your midfield behind you or your defenders in front of you. And I feel like at the front and at the back, there just seems to be a lack of confidence in those two positions. But again, we don't have any other options. So it's almost a case of we've got to try and play him into form. And we've been doing that for the last 18, 20 games where he's getting starts and opportunities, and he doesn't seem to grab them. There was a couple of times in the Fulham game where I was really frustrated with him, where, you know, you just look and you just want him to be that little bit more clinical with these half chances, and that's the sign of a good striker, is that they can turn a half chance into a chance, and he just doesn't seem to be able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, do you kind of echo what Jordan says there, Mords? And also, I said, you know, he's going to start tonight, even though he's not got a goal in 18 games. Do you think there's any way that Ruben Amorim could start Xerxes up front? Because he did say in his press conference that he sees Xerxes as a number 9 as well. As even though he said a couple of weeks ago he seems him as more of a 10. He said he sees him as a number 9. So is there any chance that Xerxes might start up front? And that's a possibility.
I think it really just depends on like who's actually travelled, because I heard that I think Ugarte has not been able to travel.
Yeah, that's a big loss.
That's another midfielder that's out of the conversation, which means now we're going to have to fill in. Xerxes might have to fill into that midfield role because Bruno might have to drop back, and Eriksen might, you know, one like injury or one, you know, player missing out just kind of changes a lot, you know, because of the limitation of the amount of players that we actually have available in the team in general. So for Xerxes to start up top, I said it before on I think the last show that I wouldn't start, even if Chido could play, I wouldn't have started him as a striker anyway. At most, I would have started Xerxes as a striker and at least like put behind him maybe an Eriksen, a Bruno, and then maybe like Ugarte, or I don't even know if Colley's available, but maybe Casemiro or somebody in midfield, just because of how little Højlund offers going forward, we genuinely can't do worse with putting another striker there.
It's like 10 men tackle, isn't it?
It's literally, it literally is that. And Jordan, you had a good point before about how players in a good team anyway, with good chemistry, you play to each other's strengths.
Yeah.
If you don't even know what your striker's strengths are, how are you going to
play to him?
You can't play to him. You can't say, oh, he's quick, so I'm going to play it behind. Well, that gets nullified very quickly in the game.
Yeah.
So, a good defender who's got a little bit of pace on him can stop that very quickly. So it's like, well, if Zirkzee is getting the ball and he's dropping in deep, if Bruno's getting the ball and he's, trying to play in the spaces, and he's looking up and he's thinking, how can I create a chance to my striker? But his striker doesn't have any, well, he's not confident in the attributes that his striker has to actually put away a chance. What's he going to do? We're going to end up forcing it, making the wrong passes, the wrong moves, and then become confused where we're not getting any chances of scoring goals.
Well, it says a lot, doesn't it, that when Chido Obi came on the pitch for 52 minutes, he somehow had 3 big chances, whereas Højlund had that in 22 games. Yeah. It's a mad stat to even get your head around. I remember telling my dad it when I got home, and he was like, his jaw was like on the floor. Yeah. That's not a coincidence. That's through getting yourself in good positions. And of course, Ruben Amorim has spoken about how the team isn't really helping the situation and we need to create more. I agree with that. But at the same time, as a striker, when there's not much service coming in, you've got to make the movements to make your own service. And the top strikers of Manchester United have done that over the years. And Chido Obi, at only 17, did that more than what Rasmus is doing. It could be confidence, or it could just be, that natural striker's instinct, and that's what worries me a little bit. I mean, I have this travelling squad here.
Sorry, can I just jump in on that? Like, I think we mentioned it the last time I was in the studio. Like, I actually feel like he's gone backwards. Yeah. Things he was doing when he first signed for us, where you looked and thought, there's a player here. I can understand why we've gone out and spent 70 million. Like, given time, and if we can develop this player, Højlund will go on to be a good striker. He's gone backwards. Like, the ball used to stick to him. He used to have a bit of upper body strength to be able to hold the ball up and bring other players into play. He's not doing any of those things anymore. Like, it's almost like the pressure of leading the line for us has now just, like, got the better of him. And he doesn't even... He just doesn't look like the player he was 12 months ago. I
agree. And even... Do you know what always comes back to me in my head? When he came on in that FA Cup final, because Ten Hag dropped him towards the end of last season, he was playing Bruno as a false 9, I think that says a lot. Do you know, it says a lot. I know that doesn't work in Amorim's system the way he's playing. He needs that, profile of a number 9 up front, and he's not going to play that false 9 in Bruno there. If anything, he plays Bruno even deeper. But I remember Højlund coming on in the FA Cup final, and he did us a world of good. He came on, he was holding the ball, he was winning fouls. This is against Manchester City, by the way, in the final of a cup. And I remember me and Ricky spoke about it post-game because we were both at Wembley. And Ricky said to me, oh God, Højlund was brilliant when he came on, doing what exactly he needed to do. That, to me, says he's a player that could really benefit from a more experienced striker in the team and him coming on for them last 20 minutes of the game. He's now having to start every single game where his confidence is on the floor, like you said. It couldn't get any lower. Yeah. And you're wearing that number 9 and the pressure. And I think it's all kind of building up. A lot of people say there's talent there, and people are like, where's the talent? I know that he had a lot of fans in Italy and that short space of time he was at Atalanta, and they thought he maybe should have stayed another year to progress. When he came to Manchester United, there was something there. There was. Yeah. But it's dwindled, and he really does need somebody to come in, be that striker, and whether he goes out on loan, whether he has cameos off the bench, he needs the pressure being released from his back, for sure. Yeah. I mean, we've got some super chats coming in, but just on the travelling squad, Mordzs, because you did mention it, because we're going to go through what our starting 11 would be. The travelling squad for Manchester United is Andre Nana, Dermot Mee, Eli Harrison, Harry Armas, Diogo Dalot, Matthias de Ligt, Patrick Dorgu, Aidan Heaven, Victor Lindelof, Nusa Mazraoui, Lenny Yoro, Casemiro, Toby Collier, Christian Eriksen, Bruno Fernandes, Alejandro Garnacho, Rasmus Højlund and Joshua Zirkzee. So it is slim pickings. He could have brought 23 players. He's only brought 18. We're going to name a 7... Yeah, we're going to name a 7-man bench with 2 keepers. Why more youth players weren't given the opportunity? I disagree with that, to be honest, even if it's just for the experience. Yeah, but just give them the experience of travelling, because they might be ready at some point.
Can't afford it, can we?
Can't afford the weight of the plane and the fuel.
No. Can't afford it.
Yeah, we've got some we've got some super chats coming in, and then I've actually got some stats of Rasmus Højlund to bring in as well. So we've got Lewis Albrin saying, Beth, I heard Spurs are the most profitable Premier League club ever. Explains their countless trophies. Daniel Levy is a businessman.
Heard that as well.
And he will get good business, just like he's done with Spurs. Spurs' stadium will be raking them in money. You know, the Beyonce concerts, the Coldplay concerts.
The boxing, Eubank Ben.
Why do you think Sir Jim's coming to the club? He's seen 100,000 seat at Wembley, the North, and he's thinking cha-ching.
Yeah.
A lot of people think it's, you know, you were sold on the Lifelord United fan from Manchester. The project of regenerating Old Trafford's going to make him a lot of money. Doesn't automatically make you a better team, though. Matt Crow says, gutted about Ugarte. Think we win, though. We will touch on that. Obviously, Ugarte, Maguire out. First teamers out of the squad from the Fulham game. Star-Lord says, Beth, go host. We will get a result tonight. Our players/system suits European football more than the Premier League, in my opinion. Love the positivity. And Gunnar Robert says, which was worse, last year's or this year's injury crisis? Probably last year's, but they're both pretty bad, to be honest with you. But on that, just to finish up on Rasmus Højlund before we go through how much of a miss Ugarte will be and how we're going to sort of replace him, I've got a few stats that might encourage you regarding Rasmus Højlund. Let me get them up here. So this is his European stats, not Premier League. His Premier League stats are on the floor. But European stats, goals scored 5, which is in the 6th percentile for strikers this season, yeah. Expected goals per 90, 0.69, 89th percentile. Goals per 90, 1.08, 99th percentile. Shots per 90, 3.24, 81st percentile. Passes received per 90, 15.9, which is the 1% percentile, so the lowest. So he's not receiving a good amount of passes. Aerial win rate 37%, which is a 37th percentile. We know his aerial duel win rate isn't good. It's a massive area of his game he needs to work on. Yeah. But in terms of the goals scored, expected goals, and what he's getting out of the passes he's received in Europe, he's doing really well. It's not this season, it's the last calendar year. So it's the last calendar year.
I don't know. It's just these stats. Like you could expect a bus to turn up, but whether it turns up or not is a completely different matter. Like we expect him to score goals, but he's not scoring goals. So it looks good on paper, but in real life, like that is a player that is absolutely shot of confidence, and I just.
Will that give him a boost though? Because he'll know this going into a European side. This is where I've got the most amount of goals and where I've had my best performances for United. I remember when we interviewed him after Bodo Glimt, and he seemed so confident after that game, and he's just kind of.
My thing is, with this whole like he plays better in Europe, what does that actually mean though? Because Europe isn't one country, like it's a bunch of countries and there's a bunch of different leagues that all play different styles of football.
Yeah, that's true.
So him playing good in Europe, in my opinion, it's just an excuse for saying he plays better against worse teams. Because let's be honest, he hasn't scored against the Real Madrids and the Barcelonas and the Bayern Munichs and the Dortmunds and he hasn't scored against the good European teams. He's only scored against, like you said, the Bodo Glimps and the. What was the other team he scored against? Victor Players and
FCSB and Pilsen. Yeah, that was his 5th goal. Yeah. He scored 2 against FCSB, 2 against Bodo Glimt, and 1 against Pilsen.
Yeah, so I look at those teams and I just think, where would they be in the Prem?
Oh, you couldn't tell me where those teams were on the map.
I could exactly no disrespect to those teams in it because they might beat United anyway. No, but the reality is he scores against European teams. Okay, so he scores against worse competition. What does that mean? Like, what is that? Is that supposed to be a good thing?
That means levels lower.
That just means his levels are not as good as they're supposed to be. Like so, I don't know. I'm not really convinced that. I mean, Real Sociedad are probably a better team than all of those teams that we just mentioned before. So
there's a couple of things I can't get out of my head. First of all, when Archie Gray bullied him, and he's not even a centre back by trade, and he's a teenager. Second of all, when Calvin Bassey literally bullied him last week, and then Cheeto came on and bodied Calvin Bassey. Cheeto's 17. Yeah. Like that is worrying, especially because Højlund's got a good physique and he's built. Like how are you that built but don't have the strength?
But he used to though. That's what I'm saying. Like things he was doing 12 months ago seem to have gone backwards. 12 months ago, we were saying, look, stop getting into wrestling.
Maybe by a couple percent, but it's like comparing two shades know what.
No, we were a better team 12 months ago because we were further into that manager's philosophy, if there was one, and understanding. What we are now is 4 or 5 months into a new manager's reign who's only been given one player to try and develop a system that he's very clear on. So yeah, I would say 12 months ago we were a better team, but this has got to get worse before it can get better, I guess. And that's what seems to be happening.
One of my things is Højlund as well, yeah. And I get it. We can all admit he was definitely better 12 months ago.
Yeah.
Like, he definitely was better. However, I feel like Højlund's CV isn't strong enough for me to have confidence in him. There's certain players that when they play bad, I look back and I think, you know what? I've seen them play good for a longer amount of time than I've seen them play bad. So I have a bit more confidence that they'll be able to get back to that old form that he had. I remember when Mane was one of the best players I've seen in the Premier League, one of the best wingers anyway seen in the Premier League. And there was a period of time at Liverpool, he was playing bad. Like he was getting he was even starting games, he was getting subbed. Yeah. And everyone probably looked at him and thought, oh, Mane could have fell off or whatever. But because we've seen him play so good before, for a longer period of time, he eventually got back to that form. He had a good CV to say, you know what, you still know what I can do. Højlund's been good for half a season, and it was his first half of a season. He's been bad for longer than he's been good. So I can't look back and say, you know what, I've got confidence he can do that again. His form doesn't seem to translate with, you know, the amount of time that he's been here. He's been worse longer than he's been good. So I don't know. That's why I just don't really have that much confidence.
No, I agree. And I guess that's why we sort of all stuck and dug our heels in with Rashford, because he had shown us periods.
He had a bigger, stronger TV.
Bigger back catalogue of good form. So we waited longer. And you're right. I think with Højlund, even when he was good, he wasn't great. Well, he just showed promise.
This is what happens when you spend 72 million on potential, and we've got to learn from this in the summer. And it worries me that we keep... Whenever we get linked to anyone over the age of 25, it's like, we're not going for him, he's too old. And it's like, we need some experience, we need someone who's proven, we need an Osimhen type, we have to. We cannot miss that opportunity again. I mean, we've got more super chat from Noah Lalabate saying, Højlund playing very poor in a team that is also playing very poor. You are like a striker who will transform the team. Stop blaming any one guy for a bad team. We're not blaming him. We're talking about him in different segments of the show. We're going to talk about other players as well. But when the number 9 for Manchester United hasn't scored a goal in 18 games, it is going to be a discussion point, especially when a 17-year-old comes on and gets 3 chances in 52 minutes, and that number 9 has had 3 chances in 22 games. Like, you're going to talk about that. It is a discussion point. DV says, New York Times ran a hit piece on Amorim today. Talked about Amorim's tactics not working and he's losing the dressing room and who's to blame for it. Well, his tactics aren't working, but he's not losing the dressing room. He just needs better players that suit his system better. And it's a lot of people say, well, you know, what type of players? Players that are better. Players that are better technically. Players that are better physically.
Any player that is losing faith in the system
isn't good enough.
It's because they know they can't play the
They're
system.
exposed.
That's it. Yeah.
They're exposed.
That's it.
Our previous system, you can hide around it. This system, you have to be able to be good with the ball at your feet. You have to be physically capable. And if you're not, you will be exposed. And that's exactly what we're seeing, the squad being exposed. I mean, we spoke a lot about Rasmus Højlund. I really hope he scores tonight.
Yeah, of course.
We just... Europe, hopefully, can get him up and running because, like I said, Chido Obi isn't eligible for this competition. He's only just, you know, come off the bench, had a real portion of game time. You can't put too much pressure on him and too much expectations. The only real out-and-out number 9 we have for Europe for the rest of the season is Højlund. And if we want to win this competition, we need him to start scoring. And we want him to do well, of course we do. The one thing you do have to give him props for, which every Man United player should have, but they haven't all had over the years, is he does work incredibly hard and he doesn't shy away. So hopefully he can get a goal tonight and let's see how that pans out. My next topic, get your comments in before team news is out, is how do you replace Ugarte in the midfield tonight? Jordan, what's your midfield pairing in there?
Yeah, I think it's a big loss. I think he's one of those players for me that you don't realise what he's bringing to that team until he's not in that midfield.
Yeah.
I feel like he's kind of like a signing where people just sort of put him in a bracket of, he's just a body. But I think he adds a lot to that midfield. And he should be he is what Casemiro should be for us. And he isn't. Although I did think Casemiro didn't look dreadful when he came on the other day. I thought he looked all right. I don't like Bruno in there.
It's tough, isn't it?
It is tough. I'd probably go Casemiro. Just to have somebody defensively minded in there.
As in Casemiro and Who'll be your second person in that?
I think he will end up playing Bruno there.
Oh, so you do? Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
I think we'll be a direct swap.
Yeah,
Casemiro for Ugarte. Bruno still sits in there.
Yeah.
I don't particularly like Bruno there. I'd rather him playing a little bit further forward. But yeah,
my thing with Ugarte, and you're 100% right. Probably the biggest miss that we could have, especially for this kind of game, because let's be honest, Real Sociedad's real main threat is Zubamendi.
Yeah.
The midfielder. A lot of people obviously seen him for Spain in the Euros and how great he was there. And I think Arsenal even trying to get him in summer, maybe Liverpool. I think Liverpool were looking at him as well to get him in summer, but you kind of see how good of a player he is when you watch him play. And the thing with him is you want to stop him getting on the ball as much as you can. Like, the more he gets on the ball, the more touches he has, the greater ability he has to control the game, the stronger chance they're going to have to win the game.
He dictates play, doesn't he?
He dictates everything in that team.
100%.
Sometimes he plays by himself, and they kind of play like a 4-1-4-1, like where it's just him pretty much as a midfielder and everybody else is kind of playing off him. Ugarte would have been the best player to nullify that threat.
Yeah.
The number one player to take that away. I remember when Mourinho put Ander Herrera on Hazard and he just took him out of the game for the whole game. And kind of like man-marked him because Hazard was just their biggest threat.
Yeah.
That was kind of going to be, or that should have been the way how we should have played today to kind of nullify Zubamendi, but somebody else is going to have to do that role. I don't think we can just put bodies there and expect them to just, as a let's say Bruno and Casemiro, just two people try and take him out of the game. Because I don't think Casemiro's got the legs to even do that.
Yeah.
And I think Bruno wanders around so much.
Yeah.
If you're a smart
Disciplined
midfielder, you can just avoid Bruno Fernandes. It won't be that hard. He might even be on the other side of the pitch when you get the ball. So in my opinion, I feel like we're going to need to put a player into that pivot that can at least try his hardest anyway to stop Zubamendi as much as they can. I'm trying to think who that can be, because a lot of we don't really have that many midfield options anyway that can do that.
I know it's like wild because he's never fit and I shouldn't even bring him into consideration, but Mount would have been good for that.
Yeah.
Collier
would be the one if he'd played some games.
He's travelled.
Collier's travelled?
He's just come back from injury, travelled and trained. So he is back, but it's like throwing him into a starting 11. But he would be really good with his energy to be that guy.
Just got to be careful with these young players putting too much pressure on their shoulders, bringing them back from injury too soon, and not bedding them in, and then they end up like a Mount where they've just got continuous injuries for their career. So he would be perfect if he'd played 2-3 games leading into this game. Hands down, that's the player I would go for over Casemiro.
I do think Bruno Fernandes is going to play in that pivot. But the question is who partners him. So why don't we run a poll on that and see what the viewers think? Who partners Bruno in the double pivot? Answer quickly.
Casemiro.
It's going to have to be, really.
It's going to have to be. So we'll have.
We're going like we got loads of options. I'm looking at it. I'm like Casemiro or Casemiro.
We'll have the options of Casemiro, Collier, and Eriksen. We'll see what the chat say. We would usually go for Collier, I would say, but because he's just coming back from injury, we're choosing to just kind of protect him a little bit and bring him off the bench. But get your comments in. The one thing about Casemiro is he does know La Liga. And maybe the pace will be a little bit slower. I'm clutching at straws. I'm clutching at straws. I mean, speaking of how much we miss Ugarte and the fact he's not here, a question I have for you guys, and I'll allow you to come in, is who do you think, at this current point in Amorim's tenure at Manchester United, Mordzs, I'll go with you first. Who do you think are the first 3 names on the team sheet?
For Amorim or for me?
For Amorim.
For Amorim.
If everyone's fit.
If everyone's fit? Oh, that's a good question. For Amorim, I'd say Ugarte. I would say Bruno. And the last one could go anywhere. It wouldn't be a striker. The wing backs, the only wing back I'd say is Dorgu. I'm trying to think defenders. Okay, I think it'd either be Dorgu or maybe like De Ligt or someone. I think yeah. Or Martinez if everyone's fit.
I reckon Ahmad.
Oh yeah, Ahmad. I forgot he even played for United.
It's bad, isn't it? I forgot.
I completely forgot he even played for you.
Yeah.
I miss
Ahmad. Yeah, obviously Ahmad would be number 1. Yeah.
I think the first 3 names in the team sheet I think would be Ugarte, Ahmad, Bruno. But I wouldn't underestimate Mazraoui. He always talks so highly of him.
Yeah, I'm gonna say De Ligt. I'm gonna have to throw De Ligt in that.
Okay.
I think do you know, there's still fans out there and pundits that say he's not an upgrade on Harry Maguire. And I find that like a wild take. I think he's everything you want your centre-back to
Had a
be.
great game last year.
Yeah.
Yes, and I agree with you, but there has been previous games before where he has benched him. Like there has been, and it's probably just for protection, and I think it is because it's rotating. Because he's even said, like in an ideal world, you either play one of Maguire or De Ligt, and you have more mobile, probably centre backs next to them, like Martinez, for example, when he was fit. You'd have situations where it'd be Martinez, Maguire, and Yoro on some games, and then it'd be Martinez, Maguire, or Mazraoui, and then it'd be De Ligt, and it'd be Maguire would be on the bench. So I think as important as De Ligt is, and don't get me wrong, I rate De Ligt super highly. I think his treatment in the media has been it's been ridiculous. Yeah. I do think he's had some off games. He's not been like perfect every game, but who hasn't? I think he's been one of our better performers. When you're talking about first names on the team sheet, I think you can get by with some of the other players we've got if he didn't play as much as I'd want him there. Whereas I think Bruno, Ugarte and Ahmad are so important.
Yeah. With that then, I'd say Mazraoui then, because he seems to play every single game. Bruno, every single game. Where the others have all, like you said, been dropped, brought in or whatnot. But I'm a really big De Ligt fan.
I'd put Doggy over Mazraoui, in my opinion. I feel like Doggy's less replaceable. Not saying Mazraoui's a replaceable player.
Yeah. I get what
you could put another centre back over Mazraoui. You could put Dalot in there over Mazraoui.
That's okay, yeah.
I genuinely don't think you can replace Doggy. And I think you've seen it now. You've seen the difference between him playing and him not playing. It's a huge difference on that side.
That is true, and it's only early days. Do you know what? That's a really good one to talk about. Patrick Dorgu. By the way, I rate Mazraoui so highly as a centre-back. As a centre-back, I think the way he covers across is fantastic. For me, he's a starting centre-back no matter who's fit. I'm going to be honest. But that's just my personal take. I really do like him there. But Dorgu, this is a really good one to bring in, and everyone get your comments in. He's been missing the last 2 games because of obviously got sent off and then he was banned. Yeah. But he's back for a game like this. Do you think he'll start him?
100%.
Yeah, of course. and he's so needed.
100%.
He's so needed.
Yeah.
Do you reckon Garnacho will start on that side with him?
I can't see Garnacho not starting today.
Yeah.
I think he will start.
And that's a partnership that I really want to see develop, because have you seen that video that's going around where the kid's trying to ask Garnacho for like...
And he drives off.
He's asking him for like an autograph or something. He's just kind of sat there and he's just kind of ignoring him. It's only a small clip, so he might have talked to him previously. He might have talked to him after. It's a really small clip, and these things can be taken out of context. But I seen someone quoted it saying, that's him ignoring Dorgu's overlaps. And I was like, it's mad because when they first played together, he did sort of ignore all of Dorgu's overlapping runs, potentially because he's not used to it. Because we don't have wing backs that overlap.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's something they've been able to work on in training, because it's not as if he's injured, it's just he's just been banned, and we'll see that combination, because we see Garnacho, his best football is usually on the outside. Dorgu's so technically good, he can play inside and outside. Hopefully we see them interchanging and we see that left-hand side starting to strengthen. Yeah.
But isn't it mad that like we're talking about one left wing back, but our manager has identified that player and gone, he can play the system, and we're already talking 2 games out how much we're missing him. Like if Amorim actually gets back with players that he identifies and goes, right, this player can play the system, he will transform the team, like, and we've got to keep faith. And I hate that already that we're in March and he only came into the job November time or whatever, and we've already got people who've given up on him and are just going, oh no, change manager, change the system, change this, change that.
It's crazy.
It's madness.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say about the whole Dorgu and Garnacho thing, I think that's because I've always said for time, I never think he should change the system. I just think he should adapt to the plays that he has. Yeah. And the fact that he has to play Garnacho, because he's our only he's the only attacking player that actually can do something, in my opinion. I mean, Højlund and Xerxes are both, Xerxes can do a lot more than Højlund, but when it comes to goals and assists, I just don't see Xerxes doesn't get those kind of numbers a lot. Let's be honest. But Garnacho actually does put up some good numbers. No, so the thing that I feel like he's done well in terms of adapting is he has played Dorgu, like Beth said, in that inside kind of channel where He doesn't have to overlap him there. You know, Garnacho can be that winger where he's the furthest player to the touchline, and when he gets the ball, it's just him. And you know, if he wants to make that pass to Dorgu running in behind, then he can do that. Or if he wants to come and cut in, he can do that. But I think it's just a smart way of kind of adapting to his system to the players that we have. Yeah. Hopefully, like you said, in the next, I don't know, 2 windows, 3 windows, he will have a whole team made. He doesn't have to adapt it. He can actually play the system that he intended to play when he came in, and he would have the players that can do that. But right now, he does have to kind of adapt to the players that he is, or that is available to him.
Here's one for you. King Felix says, Dorgu seems to have Alphonso Davies' attributes, in my opinion. We did go for the cheaper option in Dorgu, but like you said, he was obviously scouted well, and he does have the attributes that is needed for the Amorim system, and hopefully he can continue to progress. He is raw, but he looks like he's capable technically and physically, which is really important for this system. So allow him to bring more players in like that. I mean, we also have at the poll, who's your partner Bruno tonight? Collier's winning with 54%, Eriksen 14 and Casemiro 32. So a lot of you just want to throw Collier straight back in. You don't want to see Casemiro, but he's second. Not many of you want to see Eriksen in that role either.
I don't think it's 100% nailed on that Garnacho starts today.
Oh, really?
No. Because if you think about it, Højlund might very well start.
Could start.
That's what I mean. Why can't Eriksen start? Because Højlund probably will start, let's be honest. He started every game. And Xerxes will start in the 10, Bruno will start.
Yeah.
He's not going to play Garnacho as one of the he could play Eriksen in the top and then Casemiro. So I don't think it's nailed on that he's 100%. He probably will, but it's not nailed on 100%. Yeah. And if Collier is available, he is fit.
I think the whole Amorim reign so far is there's very few players who are nailed on in there. Like how many team sheets have we been like, what is happening? Malacia started, you're like, what? Didn't even know he's still at the club. So yeah, no, it is interesting. I do think Garnacho will start though. There's
multiple players long term that I don't think he really fancies, to be honest with you. But that's maybe a conversation for later in the show or a different day. I mean, I've got so many topics that I want to cover, and obviously we're going to have team news coming in and stuff as well. We've got some super chats that I'm going to get in a second, but just on Dorgu, it leads on to another note that I made for myself to bring into the show. Obviously, we've not taken the full 23-man squad that we could have. We've only taken 18, which is a bit disappointing that he didn't take some youth players. He says, you know, he wants to make sure everyone's ready, but the experience would have been good. But one of the players who has got an opportunity, who has maybe been previously overlooked and had a lot of hype around him, is Harry Armas. You talk about Dorgu there, and you talk about, you know, Dalot as well, and his pretty poor form as a wing-back, and how Dorgu's been so important, you know, with his, you know, just being able to play that role the way that Amorim wants it being played. Say if Manchester United were in a position tonight where, you know, Dorgu's obviously starting on the left, Dalot's starting on the right. We've seen Dorgu play on the right in Amorim's first game. Would there be an argument that Dalot could maybe come off and Dorgu moves over to the right, and Harry Armas might get a shout as a left wing back for a portion of game time? Because he's somebody who, for me, he's probably his best position currently in you know, the senior team in first team football is going to be playing slightly further forward, because he's technically good on the ball, maybe a little bit defensively suspect sometimes, but you can sort of get away with that a bit more when you're playing wing back, and we know Dorgu can play both sides. Equally, Dalot's been played both sides, so he could be in for a bit of game time, and there is opportunity there with the wing backs not really being as strong as we'd like them to be.
I can't see Armas getting any minutes at all. I just can't. I've
popped the balloon there, didn't you?
Sorry, no, I got to bring you back down to earth here. Last year, living the academy dream there. I just look with Amorim's comments in the week where he was talking about, you know, playing down the importance of the Europa League and winning the Europa League. Make no mistake, he's very much aware of how important it is that we go out and we perform, and I just can't see him
taking any risks.
Taking any risks whatsoever. And I know a lot of fans are in uproar about his comments, but look, that's him deflecting the pressure
away from the players.
And what else was he supposed to say? This game is do or die. Like,
put all the pressure on the players.
Yeah, all the pressure on the players. Like, and I couldn't believe the backlash from people going, I can't believe he said that. What else was he supposed to say?
I was one of them that give a bit of backlash. And because I think even if you're back a manager, you can criticise them. Yeah. For me personally, I didn't like it because I think that transcends to the players. That not putting the importance onto it for me transcends to the players, and they need to know, and they need to be very aware that it is do or die. I'm sorry. Your season.
They know. We know, so they know.
They know.
Public, though, if your manager's saying that, it's...
No,
I honestly feel like, with a lot of managers, I feel like the smart managers anyway, what they say to the media isn't what they say to the players.
That is true, to be fair.
Because let's be honest, like we've seen loads of managers come out and they'll say anything to the media, but then the players don't necessarily play the same way. Like the players might have a different kind of energy when they come on the pitch, and that's because, well, what he's saying behind closed doors is what he really wants to say to the players. And sometimes you can't say everything in front of everyone. Yeah. You can only say it to the players. You can only say certain things to the players because you want to get a certain mentality into them that is not being pushed out to everybody else. It's like when Chelsea came out and they were like, oh yeah, we're not in the title race. All of a sudden they started losing games. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I feel like when a good manager anyway that will tell his players the right things anyway behind closed doors to give them that kind of boost and that mentality to go and win a game. Yeah,
I agree. I don't think he could have come out and piled the pressure on going, this is a must-win game and whatnot. It's better to deflect it in the public and then behind closed doors get that togetherness and be like, right, guys, this is our shot at it. I couldn't see any other response really.
See, that's your opinion, but for me, I want the manager of Manchester United to come out and say what I want to hear as a fan. This season has been unacceptable. The players know that they've underperformed. We have to win this competition because Manchester United should be winning trophies every single season, and it's our opportunity to. That's what I want to hear.
I don't think that works.
That's what I want to hear as a fan, personally.
I also feel like his point was right, which was, if we go and win this trophy and we finished 14th, that trophy is going to cover how bad a season it is. He's saying that we're still in a process, winning it or not winning it. We still need to go and sign better players. The club needs to be better. So like I can understand where he's coming from. And for the last 2 years, what has happened? We've won cups, but we've been terrible in the league. And we've got into the Europa League this season, not because of our league form, because we nicked an FA Cup. And you've got to remember that. So we're in the same position.
I suppose that he's also dealing with a set of players that Ten Hag alluded in an interview, and he's even alluded to in press conferences, that are mentally fragile. Yeah. So he can't put too much of. He's mad to think that. We're talking about Manchester United players here that and talking about pressure in Europa League.
You also got to remember, look at his squad, player for player. Take away the youth players that are in the squad. Take away the new signings from last season, and then you take away players that are in the last year of their contract. He already knows. Looking at that squad, half of these players he's not going to be working with next season. So there's no point piling the pressure on now to perform now in this tournament because it's going to be make or break going forward. If we win the trophy or we don't win the trophy, we're still in the same position. We're still at the start of a new process. Although we don't want to be, we are, because we've gone to a manager with a specific distinctive philosophy in football. He's got to be backed. So I can understand where you want your manager to come out fighting and saying whatever, but we don't know what's being said behind closed doors. For me, it would have been absolute uproar if he came out and went, this is a do or die, we've got to win this game, and then he loses the game.
I don't think he has to say it's do or die, but I think he could have maybe worded it a little differently how important the game is. But I hope you're right that half these players he isn't working with next season, and we do manage to get a lot of players out the door, and he does manage to get the squad changes that he needs. But it's going to be interesting how we manage to do that with the budget that we're on. But the United team is in. So do you want to hear the United team?
Let's go.
Let me just go through it here. I think it's pretty much exactly what we would have expected. So it is Andre Onana in goal. You have your centre-backs as Mazraoui, De Ligt and Lenny Yoro. Your wing-backs as Patrick Dargu and Diogo Dalot. So Patrick Dargu comes back in to the side. Your two midfielders as Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro. What we were saying, I don't think he wants to throw Toby Collier straight in. Yeah. And then your two tens as Joshua Zirkzee and Alejandro Garnacho, and your number 9 as Rasmus Højlund. So Eriksen moves to the bench. Your bench is Harrison, me, Armas, Aidan Heaven, Victor Lindelof, Collier and Christian Eriksen. There is little firepower on the bench.
It's a bench like a testimonial, isn't it?
There's nothing on there that makes you think you can change the game. However, credit where credit's due, I thought Aidan Heaven looked pretty good when he came on against Fulham. A lot more better than what I expected, to be honest with you. And Christian Eriksen is obviously he's a senior player, he's a professional, he can give you something. But realistically, you're relying on that starting 11 there to go out there and win you that game. I mean, thoughts on the 11? He couldn't really have gone with anything else. The only question mark is he could have played Eriksen over a Garnacho, but I think I think that's the only one where you could have gone. But ultimately, the starting 11 probably picked itself, guys.
Yeah, I think away from home, I would have started Garnacho. Hopefully there's space in behind them when the pressure's on them to come out and attack us, where Eriksen really, leg-wise, probably is not going to really stretch defence. There's an argument maybe you could have done it the other way around and brought Garnacho in the last 20, 30 minutes, but I'm looking forward to seeing Garnacho tonight. Like you said, there isn't a million and one options there. I think we pretty much all picked the team. For once, we pretty much all got it right for once.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think you could. I don't think there was much wiggle room in it. And also, what might be in Amorim's head, I mean, I doubt this would be a factor, but it might be, is last time we were out at the Real Arena, Alejandro Garnacho did score the winning goal. Something to consider.
3 years ago.
Yeah, I know. He adds a bit of pace into that front line, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you just look at his stats, if you look at Højlund's stats, like, they're not good in terms of attacking output. Tonight's the night where they both again get another opportunity. You've got to take it, playing in a United shirt in such an important competition.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the only real conversation you can have is Garnacho and Eriksen. The only thing that I would have said is that I mentioned it before, obviously, about the midfield and how important this midfield is going to be today. I mean, one thing about United, and we've discussed this before, about how when we do actually try to play through the midfield, we actually get better chances. When we force it out wide, we always end up just kicking it down the line, and then it usually doesn't go to anyone because you limit your options by playing out wide all the time. When you take the ball out wide and then you play into the midfield, that's where you get the best chances. And I feel like Eriksen is the best player to do that. When he is that player in the middle of the pitch, when, let's say it's a Dalot or a Dorgu or one of the defenders have the ball, I'm more confident looking at Eriksen thinking, let me give him the ball because he might do something. Whether it could even just be a 1-2, or it could be like he might take a touch and give it to somebody else. But being able to have Eriksen as that option into the midfield is a lot better than I feel like, I don't know, the other players that we have, in my opinion. So that's the only real difference. I think you're right though, with Garnacho being that attacking outlet. Let's be honest, it's him or Bruno that's going to get a goal. I'll be so real. It's him or Bruno. So, and with more time, it's probably Bruno. So that might be another reason why, obviously, Garnacho is the choice over Eriksen.
I think Xerxes could maybe do something as well. He's been looking a lot sharper recently. I mean, I'm just thinking about the team and the Eriksen comment. The only thing is, I would say against Fulham, and people might not agree with this because obviously they just have the memory of losing the game. But I actually thought in the first 20 minutes, half an hour, against a very good Premier League side in Fulham, which they are, we actually looked decent. And I think Eriksen was a part of that. I thought, he helps us hold the ball better. But for me, it's not one of them where it's like, oh my gosh, how is Eriksen not starting? I really want to see that Garnacho and Dorgu partnership progress, because I do think with the pace that they both have and the unpredictability that they both have going down the same channel, it could cause their defence problems on that side and give us a bit of space. They could open up space for each other, and we know that Garnacho's, he's always at his best when he gets given space to run into, and Dorgu's movement could give Garnacho that space, which could open up for us in the final third.
I feel like, just on that point with Eriksen, is that I feel like that's been the argument for Eriksen for the last 18 months, is that 20, 30 minutes or a half, he's great, but then after that, his body can't keep up with what his brain wants to do, and it's great if he's in a position where it's literally just pick the ball up and pick a pass. I don't think we've got a better player at doing that in the team. But when the game then goes, 90 minutes or it's a bit more intense, I'm not sure if we can rely on him at his age to give us 2-3 games a week. With Xerxes, I agree with you. He does and has looked better, but I'd like to see him playing maybe sort of 5-10 yards closer to goal than he is. I feel he's dropping a little bit too deep. So then when he does pick the ball up to try and make something happen, he's too far away from Højlund to get the ball to him. And also, I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, but have you noticed Xerxes shooting that he just doesn't seem to be powerful.
No.
Yeah, it's always like a side foot or like a...
Yeah, have you noticed, like, it's just really weird. Like, he's so far away from goal, then when he is shooting, it's like just daisy cuts to the keeper.
It's
like, do you
strike a ball properly, yeah.
Do you know when you did like shooting drills when you used to play like Sunday League, and there'd always be that player that just couldn't get any power behind the ball? It's like that. Like them like P rollers.
Have everyone else noticed this? Like,
I know what you mean.
Yeah, so I'd like to see him play maybe 5-10 yards closer. So almost like not like a 4-4-2, but you know where you're just a bit closer to your number 9. Yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
But in terms of his
I do like him.
In terms of his actual ability on the ball, he is looked good, and he looks like he's progressing with confidence as well, which is important. And he's just a good footballer. And he was robbed of an unreal assist. Alejandro Garnacho, do you know when he turned and I think he nutmegged a player and then put him through, and I was just like, I watched that back and I was like, that's even worse from Garnacho than I thought it was. I'm going to be completely honest. I always get absolutely cut for for my thoughts. For everything, but for my thoughts on Garnacho. But I've just got to be honest. Yeah. I think if I was Amorim, I would have started Eriksen and brought Garnacho on for that impact off the bench, just to start the game with that a little bit more solidarity there, and someone who's better able to keep the ball. And then I would have brought Alejandro Garnacho on later on in the game where the space might open up, defenders might be tired, and he can inject that pace and dynamism into the team. However, I hope it works. I hope Garnacho does from the start. I think it's a big opportunity for him. And hopefully with Dorgu creating that space for him, it'll work out, and we get that opportunity in the final third for him to get in and around it.
And one thing I will say as well, today's game, and I'm not saying we should park the bus, but the goal should be to not lose. Like, if we draw...
Take it back to Old Trafford.
Let's take it back to Old Trafford. And I know, Old Trafford hasn't been the craziest fortress in recent time, but we're away at Real Sociedad. We're in their ground. They've got the 12th man. They've got the fans. They've got, everything is in their court. We don't lose today. We keep a clean sheet. We go back to Old Trafford, and then we take the game to them, and we try to at least, and the fan base as well, we all try and get behind the team to get the win. We're more likely going to get, I say this, but our home record is actually great, but I'm just trying to be optimistic. We try and take the game back home at Old Trafford. And that will be another reason why I think Eriksen probably should have started today, because let's be honest, even though he's not the most mobile player, if we do want to keep a clean sheet, if we do want to at least try and hold it down, who do you think is going to be better to hold it down, Eriksen or Garnacho?
He's more intelligent spatially, and it creates a better team shape, in the words of Ricky. Exactly. I mean, he's just messaged me actually saying Eriksen is class, shows it every time. I won't say what he said about Garnacho, and then he says, Garnacho isn't as good apart from the odd occasion when he gets 20 to 25 minutes as a sub. What's so difficult to follow? Yeah. I think Garnacho is better than what Ricky makes out, but I do think in this game, I agree with you, Mordzs. I would have used him as an impact sub, and I would have started with Eriksen when you're looking to keep things tight and ensure that we are more stable defensively.
I just feel, play devil's advocate here, if it was a home game, I would have started Eriksen. I just feel like with it being away, the onus is on them to come and attack us, which then leaves space behind. I can't see Eriksen exploiting that space behind, where you can see Garnacho playing on the last man, there being space behind, and then him running onto something. I would say we're a better team with Eriksen in it, but I can understand why the home away thing, he's gone with Garnacho because it's away. Don't
get me wrong, it's not one of them decisions where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's done it. And I don't think it's one of them decisions that will change the game massively. But it's just if it was my decision, that I think he would have got the edge for me. But what I could have seen Eriksen doing is being able to see Dorgu and see the through ball with his pace running onto the ball. But hopefully Garnacho does that as well, and his decision making's on it today.
Is this a thing then where is Garnacho just turning into a super sub for us?
I think he has. I don't think he's turning into. I think he always has. That's always been the better part of the game.
So where's then the development and the ceiling for Garnacho? And why was everyone in uproar that we were going to accept 60 million for him in the summer then?
I wasn't in uproar, and I've always said I don't think under Amorim.
I'm not talking about you two, I'm talking about just in general.
I don't think he's a start under Amorim. I think in a 4-3-3 where he's a touchline left winger, he's got so much potential, and that was his best position. And under Ten Hag, I do actually think he was developing, and I do actually think he suited Ten Hag's system really well, and he was thriving there, and I would have wanted to keep him. I think that's where he was going to develop. I think in this system, don't think he's ever going to be a 10 starting. in a team that's actually competing, which Amorim wants to do. And I don't think he's strong enough to be a wing-back either. So I always see him as a super sub.
Yeah, I agree. I think he was that should have been Garnacho's thing anyway. The problem that we had was, because that first half season or whatever when he played when Ronaldo was here, he was a sub. He wasn't starting. I think Rashford was starting a lot of games, Greenwood was starting games, Red Martial, with other players that were in that position that you just start every game. The problem was when Ten Hag came, he's already there, but when that first full Ten Hag season, when he started him literally every single game. When you do that to a player, it's really hard to then say, even though you've been starting every single game and we've not actually brought in a replacement for you, you're going to have to come to the bench. It's very difficult to do that, and that's why everyone looks at Garnacho and says, "Oh, but why wouldn't he start? Why wouldn't he start?" Well, he was supposed to be a bench player anyway. That was the goal. That was the development plan that Garnacho should have had in the first place. But like I said, he just ended up starting about 30 games in a row, and now people think he should be a starter.
That's also because Rashford wasn't doing enough as the senior player in that team, where Garnacho was used more because Rashford was the senior player on one of the highest paid players at the club, and he should have been delivering when he wasn't. So that also fast-tracked Alejandro Garnacho as well. I mean, we've got some breaking news coming out, and that is, you're going to be very happy about this. Mordzs is going to be very happy about this. Martin Zubimendi is out for Real Sociedad with illness.
Illness?
Yeah, so he's not been able to play the game, and he's for me one of their most important players. So
great news.
Benefits Manchester United. Casemiro's there, like, yes, get in.
Great news.
Play through that one.
Get in. I mean, it might not make a difference, but it makes them weaker, and it gives us more of an advantage without Martin Zubimendi. So that's big.
That will make players around in their heads drop.
Yeah.
That's like a KDB being up.
That's like us missing Bruno.
No, it's not.
More.
What?
It's not.
Right, I'm coming back to that point, but I've got some super chats in. Keel Robinson says, we didn't want Amrabat and Rabiot. No, I won't stop. Keel, you're going to have to stop with that at one point because it's not happening. Brian235 says, here's a crazy idea. How about crossing the ball into the box? It's just crazy enough to work. We have been crossing it more and we've still not had many results from it, to be honest. Out and About with Job says, I'm worried about this evening. The way things are going, I can see us getting beat. We're meme United right now. I hope I'm wrong. Fanuel Dorwit says, realistically, in 10 years from now, how many Premier League titles do you think we will win, regardless of the manager? And I agree, Doggy looks the real deal. I don't think you can predict stuff like that at this point, a year into Ineos. I don't think you can predict how many league titles we'll have 10 years from now.
0. I'm
hoping at least one. But it's not looking great, is it? Alan Henson says, why is Beth in Manchester? This could have been the last European trip in years. We had a lot to plan with our Dublin live show, and honestly, I'm absolutely gutted not to be in San Sebastian. Hopefully, if United get through, we're at the next.
That's not a bad point.
We're at the next one, but
Europe for a long time.
I know. I know. Well, I'm hoping we get through and we can go to the next one. Leon, please. Simply Red says, if only Højlund could make runs, and the runs Garnacho makes awful. Well, Garnacho's strong point is getting in the right positions at the right times, but everything else is where he's lacking. But thank you everyone for your super chats coming in. Retro Benjo says, if there's one game that Casemiro can prove his worth, it's against a Spanish team. Yeah, let's hope so. A bit of positivity. He does know La Liga. Going back to Jordan's point, so I said Martin Zubimendi missing for Real Sociedad is like Bruno being missing for us, and you said no, it's not. Explain.
I think he's a better player than Bruno.
No, but Bruno carries United. Come on.
He doesn't carry United. He doesn't. He doesn't.
Please explain your point.
Say that to Ricky and see what happens to you.
Yeah, well, obviously Ricky's going to say.
Oh, I've had this argument with Ricky on multiple times.
Do you know what it is? He should be. He should be, but I just feel like he still has moments where, you know, he scores a winner or whatnot, but his actual influence in the team in making everyone else play better, I don't think Bruno's that guy, and that's why I'm saying he's not.
Okay,
I don't. And I'm a Bruno fan. I'm not sat here. I'm just saying that he's not that guy.
He's the only good thing in the team for me right now. One of them, especially because Ahmad's injured and Kobe's injured.
Yeah.
I mean, Lenny Yoro's development is also something that is nice to see. But let me just say this to you. Points won by player, goals and assists since Bruno Fernandes' Premier League debut. First is Mo Salah. Third is Heung-min Son. Fourth is Jared Bowen. Fifth is Bukayo Saka. Second is Bruno Fernandes. Look at the company that he's in.
He's second?
Yeah, he's second. Oh. So points won by goals and assists, and Salah's just a monster in first. Bruno Fernandes is second in that list of the whole Premier League since his debut. You cannot be in that company. You cannot be second in that list if you are not a good player. A great player.
It's what else he brings to the team in terms of making other people play better, more chances that he could create, more goals that he could score. He's not disciplined.
How is he able to do more than what he's doing?
He's not disciplined enough in situations where he should be. Like some of the Hollywood passing and some of the
I get that. No play is perfect.
So I'm not going to put him. For me, I'm not putting in that bracket, the bracket of players that you've just spoke about. I don't.
But even though he's in there with all the stats every single time,
I feel those players bring more to their teams than what Bruno brings to ours.
Right. So for me,
it's okay to say that they're the best players in the Premier League.
It's taking the good with the bad, right? So of course Bruno has, weaknesses to his game. I do think he does lose the ball to lackadaisy sometimes, and sometimes he isn't disciplined enough in his position. But you take the good with the bad. His output. You're saying he needs to provide more. I don't think he could physically provide more with the absolute shower of dross that is around him. Genuinely. If you take Bruno Fernandes out that team, forget about goals. Or it's without Ahmad as well, because Ahmad does provide. Couldn't you agree that if you took Bruno out from now until the end of the season, we would have less points than what we would with him?
Yeah, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that he could and should be delivering more for the team. I don't feel like a lot of his decision making just isn't great. And I look at those players and you watch them, and for me, they bring more to their sides than what Bruno brings to us across 90 minutes. It's very easy, not very easy, but it's easy to isolate stats and go, okay, but he's got this many assists and he's got this many goals. Okay, but given certain circumstances, how many more goals or more assists could he have been providing? How many times do you see him pick a ball and ping it straight out of play? How do you take a shot and you send it into the stands? Like, his decision making at times lets him down. So for me, I look at other players and I feel like they bring more to their team than what Bruno brings to ours.
But you've got to understand, you have, for example, Mo Salah's just in a different league. Like, you can't compare him to Mo Salah because Mo Salah's just insane. But you have other players there. And you're talking about, Liverpool, you're talking about City, you're talking about Heung-min Son, and you're talking about Tottenham and stuff. They're playing with better players around them. You're playing with Van Dijk, you're playing with Alisson, you're playing with Trent, you're playing with Robertson, you're playing with Luis Diaz. In Man City, you're playing with, I know he's been injured this season, but you're playing with Rodri, you're playing with Bernardo Silva, you're playing with Ruben Diaz. You even at Spurs, like Kulusevski, Bentancur, like, these are players that would easily get into our starting 11. You're playing with better players, and Spurs are like low in the table as well. Like, I'm talking about teams have got Arsenal, like, you're playing with Declan Rice, you're playing with William Saliba, you're playing with Gabriel, like, you're playing with better players around you. Can you agree that if Bruno Fernandes had players of a higher calibre around him, he would look better?
That only so much goes to his decision making, though. What about Bowen? Bowen is not exactly playing in the best West Ham side ever. I'm saying that in moments, his decision making lets him down.
Bruno Fernandes is better than Bowen. Come on, Jordan. Come on. I like Jarrod Bowen, but Bruno Fernandes is better than him. He is. Honestly, I think people that, and I respect your opinion, because Ricky probably has a very similar opinion, and I think in the fan base there is a divide on Bruno Fernandes. But for me, it's like, if you are criticising the guy that is delivering all of this, and he's literally doing every role in that team. If you're there and you're watching him, he's doing every role. He's telling everyone where to be. He's doing everything. He's doing too much, in my opinion.
He should focus on himself then.
Okay, yeah, I get that, but and I do think there's weaknesses to him. Of course there is, and there's things that frustrate me.
Yeah.
But I think if you look at United and you think, oh God, the problem's Bruno, you're prioritising the wrong things. Like, there's so many other issues that you've got to tackle.
I've not sat here and said, like, I want Bruno replaced, I don't want him in the team. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, like, I'm not one that gets absorbed by stats, and I'm looking at him on the eye, and I just still see somebody that is too erratic. That's it. And yeah, he's been great signing. I remember when he came in where we were at, and we brought him in the January window, and he transformed the team. Listen, I sat there in that summer and said he was more important to us than Gerrard. I got absolutely hammered for it. Like, I still gets brought up now. But from then to now, I'm just seeing a player that is too erratic. He's not disciplined enough. That's it. I feel like, yeah, his stats are great, but they could be better if he was more disciplined.
Yeah,
That's my point.
I think...
Mordzs, you have your say.
No, I do think Bruno is definitely very important for the team. The most important player in our team, if you're not going to include Ahmad right now, but I think he's probably the most important player in our team. And I think there's the two different conversations going on. I think there's a conversation of impact and then ability. There are lower teams below us, even though we're 14th. There are teams below us that have super impactful players, but quality-wise, they might not be as good as Bruno. So when you're talking about ability, people might say, yes, he gives the ball away a lot and it's a bit erratic and whatnot. But if we're talking about impact into our Manchester United team, he has been our most impactful player since he's been here.
Agreed.
Easily.
Agreed.
In the past 5 years. And that's the point that I feel like, Beth's making or other people are making is, for Manchester United, yes, you can compare his ability to the other players. Like, you can't compare him to Saka and Salah and these other guys, because ability-wise, those guys are obviously better. But if we're just talking about impact into our team, nobody compares. Genuinely, nobody compares. And we every single time people try to get onto Bruno. I remember the Arsenal game earlier this season, and we were talking about him or Odegaard, and I was one of those guys that said, you know what, Odegaard's better, and I was basing it off ability. Because in my opinion, Odegaard has better ability than Bruno. However, Bruno's impact in that game was bigger than Odegaard's, and that's why we ended up winning that game. So I think there's two different conversations that are happening. Bruno's a more impactful player, but there are other players in the Premier League that are better than him in terms of just straight up ability.
Especially when you're looking at the team that he's had around him. I'm not being funny, but you're expecting. I think he does produce, and you're saying, I think he could do more. Look at what he's like. No disrespect. Our front three at the moment is Joshua Zirkzee, Garnacho and Rasmus Højlund, and there's nothing else. You look at what Szoboszlai's got. He's got Mo Salah, he's got Luis Diaz, he's got Jota. You've got players that are just way better than what we've got, and you can do that across the whole of the Premier League as well. I mean, Bruno Fernandes this season in the Europa League, 11 goals, 13 assists. Since joining Manchester United,
have we scored that many goals in Europe?
Well, we're actually, even though our performances haven't been great, our Europa League stats are actually pretty good. But again, some people aren't stats people. They prefer the eye test, and I completely understand that. And I wouldn't say I'm necessarily a massive stats person either. I do like the eye test as well. But they're just stuff that I bring into the show. But this is according to Opta, Europe's top 5 leagues since Bruno Fernandes joined Manchester United. He's top for chances created. Second's Kevin De Bruyne. Third's Joshua Kimmich. That's not bad company to be in. Do you know what I'm saying? But
that can't be this season.
No, it's since he joined.
Since he joined. Since he joined in Feb 2020. So whether you want to look at stats or not, he has had an impact statistically.
Yeah.
Maybe on the eye test, some people don't rate him, and that's fine because there is a divide in our fan base. I've watched a few of Mark's shows recently, and I don't think he's been best pleased with Bruno Fernandes. Obviously, Ricky's not a fan. We've seen that as well. So
I like Bruno. I just feel he is just frustrated. He's frustrated.
I think he's frustrated with the team that he's in.
But he's frustrated. He
can be frustrating.
Yeah.
I think he can be frustrating. But one thing I will say though about Bruno as well is, firstly, you mentioned the team as well that he's playing with right now. I don't think it's a coincidence that Bruno's best seasons came when we had a better team.
Yeah.
When his first season back in 2020, I think 2020, 2021 around that time. January 20. Just look at the team compared to now. It's night and day. Even the teams later on when we had Ronaldo came in and other players were coming through, and Bruno's having better seasons compared to this season or even last season. It's not a coincidence that he just played with better players, so his output was a lot better, and not even just output in terms of goals and assists. Just as a player, he was playing better in those past seasons than he is playing right now. I don't think he's ever been as wasteful as he's ever been compared to this season. And the second thing I will say is, with United, we do this a lot, and I've said this on so many shows. We always go to our best players, and that's the play that we get frustrated at the most. Now, I understand, yes, they have the most pressure because they are our best players. However, if we look at the cycle that we've been through over the past, since Fergie left pretty much, and we look at the players that have come through, look at the Pogbas, the Ronaldos, the Sanchez's, the, who else has there been, Martials, De Gea's, all of our top players have always ended up becoming the problem at United. They've always ended up becoming the issue. They've all left and we still have the problem. Why? Why is the problem still here when the problem's gone? And I think that's another situation with Bruno. Same thing happened to Rashford, that he's just gone now. He was the problem for a long time and now he's gone and we're still have the problem at the club. Why is that happening? And I feel like that's something that will happen with Bruno. If everyone who doesn't like Bruno, the same thing will happen if he were to leave. Everyone's saying, oh, he's frustrating, give the ball away, and we score goals, and he's a liability. If Bruno left, I promise you, we still wouldn't score goals. The ball will still get lost a lot. We wouldn't keep possession because him being the problem doesn't make sense. The best player isn't always the problem. Naturally, like Beth said, the reason why they struggle is because they're probably playing with worse players. And when you're a great player and you come around worse players, like look at. This is going to be a bit of a mad example, innit? But look at Mo Salah when he plays for Egypt. In my opinion, he's nowhere near the player he is when he plays for Egypt compared to Liverpool. Is it because he's a bad player? No. But when you're just playing around players with less quality, you as a best player, your quality also drops. Not to say that Egypt,
facts.
Not to say that Egypt are terrible. I don't even want to get any Egyptians getting on to me in it, but it's just a reality, innit? It's just a reality. When you play around
the Liverpool first team is better than the Egyptian national team.
Exactly.
Like, quality-wise, if they were to go in a match against each other, Liverpool would win. That's what
exactly. So I just don't think it's a coincidence that Bruno is obviously playing worse when he's around worse players. And it's the same thing with our other best players. When they come to United and they've been around a worse team, all of their standards have all dropped. So I feel like Bruno gets way too much stick for what he actually does for the club.
Mm-hmm. I think.
Why are you looking at me like you're ready to fight me? I didn't say that. I didn't.
Beth took it first.
I'm not sat here saying I don't like Bruno.
No, I know that. You're allowed to be critical.
Yeah.
I just think.
Why do you want to fight me then?
I just personally, as someone who. I mean, to be fair, everybody watches the game, so I'm saying you don't have to go to Old Trafford, so I don't really believe in that. But obviously, I go to Old Trafford every single time there's a United game, and you do see more of what a player does in terms of their body language across a whole 90 minutes, because, you know, when you're watching it on TV, you're waiting for the camera to be on or then whatever, and I've noticed this. As someone who has been lucky enough to be in and around the club as well, in terms of, you know, seeing open training, seeing things behind the scenes, and just, I wouldn't, at this point in time, and you are saying, Beth, the standards are low, and the standards are low. The standards are low right now. But with characters that we've had in this club, and with, you know, the players we've had over the last, 10 years, what Bruno Fernandes does give you can argue on his quality, or maybe how much he delivers, or maybe how he affects the team, whatever. What he does give you is he will give every single ounce of himself for this club. He will run through brick walls. He is, from what I know and have seen, a fantastic person behind the scenes and lives and breathes for United. Everything. He will do anything for this club. And that I can't really take away from him, because we've had not many players that have had that attitude for a long time. That used to be the norm. Yeah. It's not the norm anymore. Yeah. And that's something that he does do, whether you rate him in terms of how he contributes to the team or not, but that is something I'll always say about him. And I do also believe at this point in time, and of course we've got to be better for the future, we have to be better than 14th. I know that. If you took him out of the team, we would be worse.
Facts.
But I also think we're too reliant on him, and we need to build a team that isn't as reliant on him.
I agree.
But yeah, it's an interesting debate, of course. Keep getting your comments in, because there's so many mixed comments in the chat. And that's what football's about. It's about debating and different opinions. Sarah Barr says, I believe Ricky made the point previously. Bruno has far better stats than Bernardo Silva, but he would pick Bernardo over Bruno all day. That's
not right now.
Another interesting comment. Not right now, Mordzs?
Nope.
Dark A says, how often... You've read that one, sorry Jordan. You can take it. I've been called much worse, don't worry. All chance creators lose the ball. History will be kind to Bruno. Disrespect on his name is disgusting. I saw something the other day, like Xerxes had lost the ball a lot more than what Bruno had in a game, but people picking it up more on Bruno just because of aesthetically it's easier to see when you're watching it. We have JDV says, I agree with Jordan. The more risks you take, the more individual goals and assists you have. One of the Hollywood passes has to work, but it disrupts the momentum of the team scoring goals. Sorry, Larry says, Bruno is the only creative player in the team, hence the expectation. He plays way more positions than he's supposed to, and that affects his performance. Mitcher says, Bruno is the most overrated player. In defence, he is terrible. People pass him for fun. Salah Ahmad says, I think the reason we are so reliant on Bruno is because bar Ahmad, nobody has stepped up in terms of goals and assists, so Bruno has to do more. I think that's a really good comment. Mitcher says, Bruno is losing the most balls in the Premier League. Best stats are not all that. He is average. And King Flixer says, Bruno has to do everyone's job. That's why we are bad. Keel Robinson says, when Bruno shoots 10 yard over the bar, it's a stat. King Flixer also says, Bruno is not a captain. That's what needs to change. M. Parker, thank you for your super chat. A lot of Bruno discourse. I think he is the right captain for the team. But then Roy Keane, one of the best ever captains in football, doesn't think that. Everyone's got mixed opinions, and it's an interesting debate to have.
I think it's, with the captain thing, I think it's what you want from your captain. Everyone's different, isn't they? I mean, DeLicht for me is the type of person that I would want as my captain. Someone
DeLicht's a great shout.
Willing to run through brick walls and literally gives his all in a different kind of way to what Bruno gives. But that's just because of how I've been brought up. Captains, for me, for football, were people like Roy Keane that were just man mountains, and I don't see that necessarily in Bruno. And the play acting when he gets fouled and all that jazz, it's not something that I look at. As captain, I don't think he's necessarily doing a bad job, but everybody's different.
Do you know what's funny? I've just checked my watch here because I got a notification. I read and I quote from Ricky on WhatsApp, "You're talking a load of bollocks about Bruno. Can't wait for when I'm back on Sunday night." Oh, he makes me laugh. Anthony Tracy says, PSG lost their most talented player and most improved. Oh, it's all about opinions, guys. All about opinions. Hit a like on the video. Get your comments in. We will be heading over to Goldbridge for the watch along in 15 minutes time, but we still have so much more to cover up until then.
Ricky legend.
We've got Arsenal Sunday, innit?
Yeah, we've got Arsenal Sunday. Makes me absolutely crease, honestly.
He's hilarious.
Mordzs,
yeah. Game
tonight. Who's your player to watch?
Oh, I forgot about this. Player to watch. I mean, I don't know the starting lineup. I'm going to go Doggy because I haven't seen him in a couple of games. Sorry. Oh, my bad. I'm just thinking, like, everybody else, I've seen him every game. I kind of just expect, I already know what I'm going to see, so yeah, Dog, we've not seen him in a couple of games, so I want to see, I can predict this, and I know this is going to happen, the huge difference that's going to be on that side of the pitch. It's going to be literally like night and day, and Doggy for me is one, like, I know we spoke about you, Amorim's top 3 players would be, Doggy for me is in my top 3 players right now, honestly.
Jordan?
I thought I had a banker there, no one else was going to pick, he just dropped it. Yeah, I agree with everything that you just said. I'm looking forward to seeing him and seeing the difference he now makes after him not being there for 2 games. But I'm going to go with something different then. I'm going to go with Garnacho. I think we see an impact. He makes 20 minutes from the bench. I'm hoping that he can have an impact from the start.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that shout. My player to watch is Højlund, because I think he is absolutely crying out for a goal for confidence, and not only just a goal, but a good performance over 90 minutes. It does feel like playing with 10 men a lot of the time when he's been playing recently, and I just want to see every United player do well, and we need our number 9 to start scoring. The last little thing I wanted to talk about, it's going to take up probably a little bit of time. Got eyes on Spurs as well, a big competitor if we do get through. Obviously, we've got to get past who's next, which is Sociedad, and you've got to keep getting through. We can only meet Spurs in the final, but definitely someone to watch in terms of the rest of the teams that are in there against Alkmaar, who are no pushover. I watched them play Galatasaray off the park. Alkmaar, don't underestimate them. They could do Spurs. I mean, equally, I might be sat here with pie on my face, and they might absolutely smash them up. But they look really good against Galatasaray, and I think Galatasaray are a good side. So that's one to watch. I'm just looking at Manchester United's pathway to the final, and I want you to bring it in with you guys. So if, and I'm talking if, you get past Real Sociedad. You've then got either FCSB or Lyon in the next round. Would you guys be confident on either of them teams? We've already beat FCSB, by the way.
Yeah.
Away from home.
Do you know, I'm less confident against Spanish sides. I've just got bad PTSD of us playing Seville, Villarreal and other Spanish teams over the years that tend to beat us. So yeah, I think this is probably a more trickier fixture than the two teams waiting for us.
I agree with that. Mordzs, would you agree?
I'll be honest. I've not seen a lot of Lyon this season, so I'd have to actually go and look and see how well they're doing this season, and especially like their style of football. Because I feel like sometimes these games just kind of come down to tactics, you know. Because both teams, let's be honest, both teams are not competing for a title. I don't know if Lyon compete for a title. I'll have to check, but I'm assuming they're not competing for a title. So both teams are probably looking at this cup thinking, we have to win this. Like, let's try and get the same as Spurs. Like, Ange literally, for some reason, said in his second season, he always wins a trophy. Yeah. He's now out of every other cup. He has to win this trophy, or it's going to look like an absolute idiot. So again, it's another team who's going to be putting every single egg into their basket, into the European Cup basket, to try and get a win. So I'm more confident. I'm definitely more confident against the FCSB.
Yeah. Well, Lyon aren't competing for the title. I'll tell you that. They're in 6th place in League 1. PSG are on 62 points. They're on 39 points. So.
Okay. Well, yeah.
I think I agree. I've just based off, obviously, you know, I'm not watching Lyon on a weekly basis, but just based off what I've kind of looked at, I do think Sociedad is a tougher task than both SPSB and Lyon in the next round. So that gives me confidence. It's when we move past that, if we do, watch us get knocked out to one of them teams now. But it's when you move past that, you've got on the other side, which could be facing in the semi-final. You've got Rangers against Fenerbahce, so one of them will get through. And then you have Roma versus Athletic Club. One of them will get through. I see out of Roma, Athletic Club, Fenerbahce and Rangers, if we do eventually get past Lyon or FCSB, I see it being Athletic Club. They are...
Bilbao.
Yeah. They're a good side. They've got Williams. We know him from the Spanish international team.
Yeah.
They managed to keep hold of him. You know, Barca are looking at him. He looks good, and they are doing well as well. Like, just when you look in La Liga,
Bilbao.
let me just get it up because I saw it the other day.
Spanish teams just haunt us.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I see us going out to Athletic Club. I've done my predictions that we'll get past them because I was just trying to back United, but that's who I see us going out to. They are 4th in La Liga, and they're a good side.
Yeah,
they're a very good side.
Our fixture stinks.
Yeah. That's who I'd probably rather play Spurs than them, to be honest with you.
Spurs have beat us 3 times this season.
Oh, maybe not. Maybe not, but...
Is it 3 times they beat us? Is it?
Yeah, in the cup and then twice in the league.
God, Spursy. Yeah.
I just really hope if we do end up getting to the final, which is obviously a big if there's any way that Ahmad can be back. But he says he's out for the season, so if there's any way he can make it... Kobe will be back by then, hopefully. Kobe will be back by then.
I think we can forget Ahmad.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so frustrating because he is... Do you think... Here's one for you, Jordan. Do you think Ahmad papered a lot of our cracks, our goal-scoring cracks?
Yeah, definitely. But in the same way that again, we talk about Bruno. There's games where, you know, they've scored goals or whatnot, and then you forget the fact that the other 70, 80 minutes before that were terrible. Because then you live in the moment. So yeah, Bruno and Ahmad have done that, which is what you're looking for Xerxes and Højlund to do. You want your forward players to score goals to win your games. At the moment, we seem to only have 2.
Also, last but not least, just looking at Athletic Club, if we do eventually face them, the final is in Bilbao. So, you know, that gives you even more of a push if you're them to kind of get there and you kind of had that home advantage. But Jordan... And Mordzs, feel free to jump in as well. I'm just kind of putting these questions to Jordan because he doesn't usually come on the shows as much. Amorim. There's already been some chat about him in the fact he's underperforming. And, you know, is he good enough to be given the money that's needed in the summer? What are your thoughts on Amorim so far and your thoughts on Amorim moving forward?
I'm fully behind the manager. Nothing's changed for me from when I wanted him to come in. He's got a clear identity on how he wants to play. There are moments when it is painful and I'm sort of like, you know, are you being stubborn? Should you change? Should you do something different? But at the end of the day, it's proven that what he does works. And I feel like if we back him, would it work? Yes, it would work. I also have to remember with Ten Hag, where we hammer Ten Hag for him turning around, making the statement, I'm not here to play Ajax football. For me, from that moment, he was massively on the back foot after that, because he was brought in to play a certain style of football and then just went, I can't do it. My frustration is, and always will be, at the board. We forced the manager to come in before a transfer window and then didn't back him in that transfer window. He openly said he wanted to come in the summer and have a full pre-season and a transfer window and spend some money. Would we be in a better position now if we'd kept Van Nistelrooy in? I do. I feel we'd be in a much better position if we'd kept Van Nistelrooy in. But we made the decision to bring him in. He's very set in his ways, and I feel like the moment he turns around and goes, I'm going to change this system, that's the moment that he accepts defeat. My concern is that he's 40 years of age. Things have tended to always go well in his career. Is how is he dealing mentally with what is happening at the moment and the pressure of all the press conferences and being in the media and the spotlight and under the microscope more? How is he dealing with that? And does he still believe in what he does? Does he still believe that there's light at the end of the tunnel? Because the comment, I think it was in yesterday's presser, where he said something about, I might not be there for that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
He sometimes likes to throw in an odd comment like that, though.
Yeah, he said something about as part of a process, I might not be there for that. That for me was slightly alarming.
He puts himself down a lot, though, but I think it's because he's so frustrated with the position that we're in.
He is, but I said a while ago that he does give me those Conte vibes, where it wouldn't surprise me if summer comes and if that transfer window doesn't kick off the way he wanted to, and we start bringing players in and moving players out to his beat, I wouldn't be surprised if he's the type of person to just walk. I feel like he's got that air of arrogance about him, that he believes so heavily in what he knows he can deliver.
And his philosophy.
Yeah, that if it isn't right, he would just walk. I
saw an interview with him today as well, and it was like, what would you be doing if you weren't a football manager? And he was like, nothing, I would be a football manager at a lower league. He's so, I know you can't, this is just my interpretation. It was like, you are so committed to your way of playing. This is a way of life for you. I get if he walked, he'd be walking on a lot of money, but I think he's that hell-bent on things being right that as well, it wouldn't surprise me, because he's so committed to the sport and being a football manager.
And what I would say on Amorim, and just last minute, two things actually, two questions really that I want to ask, and I'm the same as you, I'm fully backing him because we have to, let's be honest.
We have to, we've got no other option.
We have no other option. But the first question I want to kind of put out there is, sometimes there's managers that are the stepping stone to another manager that actually takes it to the final goal, innit? I give an example of someone like Arteta. Hopefully there's no Arsenal fans in hearing it, but in my opinion, Arteta is a stepping stone to a manager that's going to win them everything. Yeah. Not because he's a bad manager, because he's created a great team and he's brought in great players and developed great players, but you see a team that's finished back to back in the Premier League, not really been that successful in the Champions League, and it seems like every time they're almost there, the manager can't really take them over that line. And this is my opinion. I think he's just a manager that is a stepping stone to the other manager that's actually going to take them over the line. The question is, if Amorim does do well, is he actually going to, because of the lack of experience that he has, like I said, he's only 40 years old, he hasn't really won in any big leagues. I mean, we saw Ten Hag win at Ajax, and that's probably a bigger league than the Portuguese league. Is he the manager that's actually going to take us over the line, or is he the manager that's going to bring us to a point where somebody else comes in and actually is very successful? That's just a question, isn't it? And the second thing I want to say is, in terms of system-wise, now, we always talk about how he needs his players to fit the system, he needs specialist players to fit a system. In my opinion, I feel like the best systems can just fit in good players to work. And the reason why I say that is, I look at a system like Pep Guardiola. He's played the same system his whole managerial career pretty much. At Barca, at Bayern, and at City, he's played pretty much the same system. However,
do you think Pep could play his system with these players? He's always had quality players.
But hear what I'm saying, though. This is the point I'm trying to make, innit? He's played the same system, the same style of football. However, because he's always had good players, it's always worked. And even when those players change, the same system still works with different players. He won the league with Foden playing at false nine, and next year he won the league with Haaland playing as a striker. Two very different players, but the same system, and it worked. Now my question is, can Amorim play a system with different styles of players and it still work? Or is his system only able to work with a specific type of player in every position? Because if that is the case, it's going to be very hard to win a league like that, because 1 or 2 injuries, all of a sudden you're thinking, well, the system's not going to work now because our main players are gone.
Okay, so in reply to the first question, let's just get near the line and let's smell it, and then I'll worry about crossing it. But at the moment, we're nowhere near it. So if Amorim can take us like 10 places up the league, I'll be happy at that point, and then we could deal with that. But in going back to the system thing, I feel like he needs the spine of the team to be able to perform to the way he needs to, and then the interchangeables in and around the spine, he can get there. Talking about Pep, let's remember that Pep's first season at Manchester City, they not struggled, but they weren't what they were, and I believe Leicester won the league that year. And then he signed players, and then they won it. Leicester or Chelsea, somebody else won it. They didn't win it that season. He then had a transfer window, brought in players, and then went on.
One window though.
He made tweaks.
One window, but he was backed. We're talking about a manager that's had a January transfer window, about giving a left wing back.
How much money did he spend on just defenders as well, by the way?
But he won the league.
And even he brought in a keeper that wasn't good enough in Bravo,
and then jogged him on.
And then he got Edison in because they had the affordability where they could make mistakes in the transfer window. Amorim can't do that because we don't have any money.
Yeah.
Like, he got a lot of money, and he has made tweaks to his system over the years because he's been allowed to do that because of the calibre of players he's been able to bring in because of good sporting director and spending money in the right way. And if they don't have a player that pays off for them, they can just replace it, like he did with the defence, like he did with the keeper.
I also feel like Pep's starting point was a lot better than what Amorim's was.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
And on that note,
we've got to finish.
We've got to finish up. Last
What?
super chats from Robert McCormack. Think our number 9 ends his drought tonight. Hopefully. Jacon says, do you have any doubts that maybe he's just not the right man, like Andre Villa-Boas, that maybe the league isn't for him? I think right now we've just got to back this manager and give him a transfer window and give him a pre-season and believe in him and what he can do. But look, everyone, you're entitled to your opinion. Keep it going. Keep the debate going. Hit a like on this video before you go. Head over to Goldbridge's watch along. Early kick-off today. We're hoping Manchester United can get something over in San Sebastian. What should they infiltrate the chat with?
I'm not saying anything because last time it was sheep emojis and he shouted at me, so I'm leaving it.
Oh yeah, last time it was sheep emojis and he shouted.
You sound like a dog, yeah.
Dog goes back.
I was going to go Højlund goal.
I mean, yeah. Yes.
Oh, we'll go.
No, go on.
We'll go, okay. We'll go with Højlund goal. Højlund goal tonight. This is where he kicks off.
He has to.
He has to. Look, and Doggy's back. Either or, whichever you fancy. Go over to Goldbridge's, watch along, and we will see you on the fans forum. Kev will be joining us. Hopefully, we're talking about a win. We'll see you then.